Parable of the parachute and good news to the poor. A friend and I were recently discussing the spiritual nature and origin of things. He is searching honestly for faith to believe that more exists than he sees in the mirror, and that what we call death is not, at least not necessarily, invariably the issue of a deadly sting. He asked me this, and it's a fair question. If we are eternal beings, then why do we live a mortal life? Now, he had to retire for the evening after posing that question, which gave me the opportunity to compose this response, noting that I am rather certain, without researching the issue, that neither his question nor my response is novel. I told him this. Imagine you are on a plane, and for whatever reason, your brother, who may or may not be on the plane with you, it's not germane to the allegorical analogy, your brother's facing peril or death. A device is thrown from the plane, one which, if not engaged timely, will result in your brother's death. However, if engaged, in other words, if the button's pressed on the device, then your brother will live. No strings attached, no trickery. You have the ability to jump out of the plane, acquire the device, and save your brother's life if you so desire, if you so choose. Also, the conditions are present that if you had a parachute, both you and your brother would survive the ordeal. Without a parachute, only your brother would survive the ordeal. But when faced with the choice of to jump or not to jump, one is faced with an entirely different decision predicated on the availability of a parachute. In other words, it's one thing to jump out of a plane with a parachute, to grab a device, to press the button, to save your brother. Pull a parachute, you land safely. But it is an entirely different kind of decision or depth of decision to jump without a parachute. Now, when you refine your thoughts on this allegorical analogy, you will conclude and understand that a mortal life is the only way, per se, that an immortal being can have to choose to be the brother who jumps without a parachute, can choose to love that much, to that level, to love that deeply, or in other words, to love fully and completely. Otherwise, the jumper would always know that he had the parachute, thus precluding his ability to choose to love completely and fully. Now, some of the ideas in that correlate also to the called the parable of the poor widow's contribution. If you always have an immortal life, then you always have the parachute. And if you always have the parachute, then you never have the poverty from which to contribute, from which to love. We can read in Mark 12:41 through 44. He sat down opposite the treasury and observed how the crowd put money into the treasury. Many rich people put in large sums. A poor widow came and put in 2 small coins worth a few cents. Calling his disciples to himself, he said to them, "Amen, I say to you, this poor widow has put more in than all the other contributors to this treasury, for they have all contributed from their surplus wealth, but she, from her poverty, has contributed all that she had, her whole livelihood." So when you always have a parachute, You may want to love your brother that much. Love him fully and completely and deeply, but you can't. You can't. However, if once you did have a mortal life, and you, at that time, during your mortal life, you did love your brother completely and fully, love him that much, to jump out the plane without a parachute, to grab the device and press the button and save his life. You loved him that much. That's what you take to your immortal life. That's the love that you take with you to your eternal existence. And that is who you are then, for all time, because it is who you chose to be now. Rejoice, you who are poor, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And those of you who are loving and humble of heart, truthful and honest of tongue, a place has been made for you, a place that the rich cannot buy. But you, not because you are poor, but because through your poverty you have become rich in spirit. Through your love you have become rich in love. Through the truth you speak you have become rich in truth. Such wealth the rich of this world seeketh not. Your treasure awaits you in the room our brother Jesus has made for you. Walk with him, and he will see you to it. For all things have come to be through Jesus, the first thought of the Father, made in, of, and through love. You are here so that you may be there in heaven, because God the Father and Jesus his Son love you. If you never was in a state of not knowing, in a state of lacking truth and love, you would not fully understand or appreciate or attain the fulfillment of knowing truth and love. If you've never been the victim of the lie, never been lied to, then you would never know how precious and holy is the truth, how precious and holy is love. And neither would you know love and truth if you remained in the lie. Therefore, the only way is to initially be the victim of a lie. In other words, have or live a mortal life, and then be saved therefrom. Then you can be fulfilled. Things are the way they must be, so that you may be fulfilled in love and truth, so that you may be like the Master, so that you may be Jesus' brother and a child of God.